just staying in town. I'm on the edge, I ain't coming down. The champagne took a break from the brown on a rampage. I've been giving it rounds.
So we've made a lot of creator PCs on the channel, but never a gaming PC. This PC is for a professional, a different kind of professional, Lando Norris.
Norris going very quickly in the middle sector. Is it going to be enough? It's going to need to be a mega lap. But it is a mega lap as it stands for Lando Norris, who's right in the hunt for pole position. Lando Norris has been on pole position one time before in Formula One. Can he make it two? He can! Lando Norris digs deep and hits the front of the field. He's beaten Max Verstappen by 0.02 of a second.
So right now, the British Grand Prix is happening at Silverstone, and in about half an hour the race is gonna start. Martin is probably doing its awkward grid walk interviews right now.
Sorry, excuse me please, excuse me. Somebody grabbing hold of my shoulder. Sorry, I'm trying to talk to the guy behind you. Brad, Martin Brando, Sky F1. How are you doing?
And I am ready to do the Lando spike right here. We've got the official Ferrari F1 sparkling wine champagne. So Lando, come on, bring it on. So if you don't know who Lando Norris is, he is the young British F1 driver who has recently started to challenge the 4-year-long winning spree by Max Verstappen. The last 5 races in this season, Lando has been on the podium 4 times. 1 of them he was first, 3 of them he was second. Looks like Max Verstappen doesn't have the fastest car anymore. And even though he's ahead in points, the championship could be up for grabs. So let's talk through this beauty here and why it's so special.
Yeah, the jaded, they tangled in feelings.
So obviously this is a McLaren themed PC, and even though being cool and looking super awesome, we've specifically chosen all of the parts for a very specific reason. Firstly, the motherboard, because this is the part that glues everything together. It's like the chassis of the F1 car, suspension, gearbox, the aerodynamics, everything comes together, and so is this motherboard. Now, this motherboard is one of the only high-end boards, or like the mid-high-end boards, that offer ATX size. I don't want to go eATX because it's then not going to fit in the case and then we all have to build a new theme. Because of the size and good cooling for all of our components on the motherboard, as well as a lot of PCIe Gen 5 storage, which you'll hear about in a minute. It's got lots of fast I/O as well as future compatibility, so we can use the same motherboard chassis in the future. Next, the CPU. This is one of the main parts in the PC that gives you the performance. It's kind of the engine of the car, or a PC in this case. And the fastest CPU for the F1 2024 is the 7950X3D from AMD. It's the Ryzen 9. And some of you might argue it's the 7800X3D. Well, in some cases it can be within margin of error better, but we want more cores, so in case we do something else as well, we're going to be fast in every aspect. Because AMD says it's for creators and gamers. If you want to know how good this is for creators, well, subscribe button is your friend. It's got 16 cores and 32 threads, and we've squeezed a little bit more performance out because of the PBO on this CPU. Now, what makes this CPU special is the 3D V cache, which enables it to be very fast in certain games like F21. It's like the hybrid power unit inside the F1 that also offers you electrical and petrol power. Now, the CPU is nothing without its cooling. We need very good cooling. And for that, we're using a very special AIO. AI. That reminds me of a sponsored segment. AI from Artlist.
Hey, let's talk briefly about today's sponsor.
Hey, let's talk briefly about today's sponsor.
Let's talk briefly about today's sponsor.
Let's talk briefly about today's sponsor.
So this part of the video is sponsored by Artlist and their new AI voiceover feature, which I have early access right here, and I'm going to show you how this works. And it's pretty incredible what it can do. It's probably one of the best AI implementations that I've seen that actually works for creators. So basically you'll have this voiceover on the side. Over here you can listen to the different voices of your, character, what you want the voiceover to do. So I have copied one of our LG sponsor scripts over here. I'll just paste it up there. And basically now I'll go through all of these different persons. You can just see one of these examples
in the frozen
here.
Arctic, amidst the serene beauty of sunlit ice.
So last night was a total disaster.
Hey, kids!
Our splendid sparkling water.
Okay, let's try this with, for example, here now. Make sure that you don't have any weird kind of typos in there, that your commas and things are in the right places, because it will make the final audio sound according to your grammar as well, actually, when you've got commas and so on. So all we have to do is now generate. When I press play, we can actually see how it sounds like.
Hey, let's talk briefly about today's sponsor LG and their OLED TVs and why they're so special. Firstly, LG's award-winning OLED TVs aren't just slim and sleek.
I mean, how good is this? Obviously, they don't quite know how to pronounce certain phrases, like OLED is not pronounced OLED. But if you don't have specific tech, phrases, if you have just like a narrative and no names, this is going to be amazing if you do a voiceover.
Hey, let's talk briefly about today's sponsor LG and their OLED TVs and why they're so special.
Hey, let's talk briefly about today's sponsor LG and their OLED TVs and why they're so special.
Hey, let's talk briefly about today's sponsor LG
How
and their
natural does
OLED
this sound?
TVs and why they're so special.
Anyway, I've been listening to loads of them and I'm very, very impressed. All you have to do is here now you can see what they're talking about. If you want to create a new one, you can change that over there, put a different person in there. You can download it and then you'll get an audio file and then you can use it on your, videos, however you want to do it. You go back to the voice catalog, you can change all of these different people what you'd like. So go check out this awesome voiceover AI feature from Artlist. If you haven't signed up yet, check it out in the video description below. Back to the video. The AIO is like the cooling on the F1 car. All the aerodynamics have actually been built also to cool the car down, because if you're overheating, you're probably going to go to the wall. So this AIO is from Li & Li and it's the Hydro Shift, which actually shifts the tubes on the side. So as you can see, you can't really see the tubes because they're hidden, makes it more aerodynamic and cool. So our airflow inside the case is going to look better and the tubes cause less turbulence inside our case for the airflow. It's got a very good pump from the Li & Li Galahad 2 Performance, 31mm thick radiator, which is thicker than usual, and the LCD screen, which actually allows us to make this PC very customized. The GPU, probably the most important aspect of this PC build, because that gives the most performance. This is the RTX 4090 and the best RTX 4090 you can find on the market. In fact, this is the Asus ROG Strix Platinum Matrix, and this is no usual RTX 4090. This has an AIO built in, so it gets cooled down with those fans 3 on the side there. It doesn't just look epic, it is the fastest one you can get on the market. And very expensive, as you can find out through the links in the description below. This is the best GPU performance you could get for your F1 game. Because of the AIO, we can actually push the GPU to go a little bit further. We're running this at 110% TDP. We're pulling over 520 watts when this GPU is utilized, but the cooling is no problemo. The install is super easy, there's no wires or any extra wires because of the AIO, and mounting it vertically is probably the nicest thing you can do because it looks so nice from the side or from the bottom.
New whip, no leash, no key, they heat it. California on the plate.
Next we've got RAM, and here again we've got something very special. This is the Corsair Dominator Titanium, and not a 32 or 16 gigabyte kit, it's a 48 gigabyte kit that goes to 8000 megahertz. But on BIOS, our motherboard wants to run it at 8200 megahertz. That's really fast, like Lando Norris on Spanish Grand Prix qualifying.
Smoking on dope, that diesel. Freeze.
Next, the SSDs. We're using Team Group T4's Z540 SSDs, and the 2TB model is for our OS, and the 1TB is secondary drive, and you can put whatever in there. Now, these drives are blisteringly fast, over 10 gigabytes per second, but not just sequential speed, but also random read and write speeds, which means that whatever you throw at it, these are one of the best drives I have ever tested on the channel. Now, these aren't quite like the MAX Verstappen SSD, but there are within 0.25% of the MAX Verstappen SSD, which is the crucial T705. But that one has the white heatsink, and I wouldn't fit in this build, so that's why we go with this one. And I think they're a little bit of a dark horse on the competition because they're a lot cheaper as well. And both of these SSDs are running PCIe Gen 5 X4 speeds, and we're not losing any other bandwidth in here. Nope, not even the GPU. The GPU has full PCIe Gen 5 X16 lanes for it, even though it can't utilize that. The power supply, it's very important that we have a good quality power supply, and for that we're using the Be Quiet Dark Power 13, because we want the power to be very efficient and not lose a lot of power. And this guy has the 80 plus titanium rating, which is the highest 80 plus rating you can get. It's ATX 3.0 certified, meaning we've got the 600 watt 12 volt high power cable built in, which keeps the cable management for the GPU very easy. And it comes with an OC switch, and by switching it, it swaps it from its 4 12 volt rail mode to alternative single rail mode or operation. So like an F1 car, we want a good power unit because, you know, a good engine is always good, and we don't want to DNF our PC. And lastly, the case. This might surprise you, but this is actually one of the most affordable things in this PC build. Yes, we did do a paint job on this, and I think it actually matches this very, very well in terms of the McLaren color. But this is the APNX C1 mid-tower case, and this allows us to have very good airflow, like an F1 car. Aerodynamics, very important. We have two very thick 360mm radiators installed in this PC case, and I don't want the PC to be too big. So this is a mid-tower, like an F1 car. It's got its dimensions. It can't be too much bigger, too much smaller. It has to fit in its dimensions or requirements. And this case fits all of our components and a little bit more. It also has very nice included fans. We did change the back fan though to the Lee TL LCD fan we used in the $3,000 Epic Creator PC. Do you remember that build? So that's in the back with the Lando Norris logo on it. And it also allows vertical GPU mounting, as you can see here. So all the teams in F1 have their own secrets to the aerodynamics and airflow, but I'm gonna tell you mine in this PC case because it's very important and it's designed specifically. So these three fans in the front are intake, so they're blowing cool air inside the case here. These on the side are exhaust, so they're pushing the air out, the cool air that's just been supplied from the front, but it can't take all of the cool air out, so whatever it can, it just pushes out because the radiator is going to be very warm, so all the warm air is going to be pushed out from the case, keeping all the components very cool inside. Then the cool air keeps traveling through from both sides of this GPU, from the front and from the back, cooling the M.2 SSDs that are behind the GPU as well, moving towards the back and upwards. These fans on the top take the hot air and push it through the radiator, through the top, and whatever other hot air you have inside the case, this back fan is gonna take it out. So all in all, we're actually looking at a little bit of a negative air pressure inside this PC case because we've got more exhaust than intake. Bear in mind, our PSU in here is flipped upside down, so it sucks in the cool air from the bottom and then exhausts it out from the back. So our on-the-floor design is quite good. Now, if you want to enable DRS on this PC, then you can take the top cover off and then it exhausts the air out even better. But it's kind of weird, so I wouldn't do it. Unless you want the ultimate performance, then you can. Well, actually, it's got another DRS, which is in the front here. It's got a mesh in the front that you can take off. Ooh, my voice makes weird sound. But cooling is not a problem with this. It's got plenty of cooling for everything. So I want this PC to inspire you to build your own. And if you've never built a PC, go check out the build guides in the description below because there's some for you. Whatever your budget is, I'll explain everything there. Now, you might be asking, why not go custom loop because you're making such a custom PC? And I'll say, firstly, I don't like custom loops because I think they're very impractical and a lot of waste of money with very little performance gains. And Like an F1 car, the PC has to be serviceable and serviceable very quickly, because if you put it on the wall or there's something wrong, you need to change it very fast because time is not on your side. You want to be as fast as possible. So that's why all these parts in this PC case are off the shelf. You can buy them through the links below if you wanted to, apart from the paint job, which is a little bit of a costume. Now I've got to talk about the issues because there is nothing perfect. Number one, the paint job kind of sucks. I probably didn't use the proper paint, I didn't do undercoat, and if you want it properly painted, you might want to take a little bit more time. I was probably rushing a little bit, and I don't think this is very even. If Lando's going to take this, I'm probably going to ask where McLaren gets their panels painted, and I'm going to get them painted with the McLaren color. Secondly, even though the motherboard and RAM want to run 8200 megahertz, it's not gonna work really. Right now, I've managed to get the RAM running at 7000 megahertz, which is a little bit slower, still super fast. If you know how good the CPU is and you know the IMC and everything, you might get a little bit more out, but I'm not able to get the full speeds advertised from the RAM. Next, in order to actually fit the AIO, I had to remove this aluminium finishing little touch panel on the side. You can just screw that off because it's a little bit too thick to put it in there because it's a smaller case. And the bracket for the cooling on the top, I was only able to use 2 of the screws instead of 6 or 8, whatever is there. So the AIO kind of rests on the back of these tubes there. The back side of it and the front side is screwed in, but it does the job. Lastly, gaming benchmarks. You're probably waiting for me to, you know, fire up F1 2023, 2024 and show you some of the benchmarks. I'm not a gamer, I don't do that. So if you want to see that, you're gonna have to comment in the description below, Lando, bring it home. And then maybe we can make something happen to see how many frames per second this can do. In 4K, 8K, sim rig. Come on Lando, bring it home so I can do the biggest Lando spike. Thanks guys for watching, bye bye.